All right, guys, back on Southeastern 16 with Max Barr previewing the number 1 Auburn Tigers hitting the road in SEC play. What could go wrong? Headed to Oxford to play the Ole Miss Rebels. We joke about what could go wrong on the road, but Auburn's been pretty good so far, I'd say, in winning games that they've played. They're still unbeaten in SEC play. As we know, the Tigers 7-0 in conference play and 19-1 overall. They've been fantastic. We'll talk about why here in just a minute. Meanwhile, Ole Miss got a very important win, Max, against Texas in the midweek, getting a 72-69 victory over the Longhorns, who, as we said, have been trending up. That snapped the 3-game losing streak for Ole Miss, and now that was one of 3 straight home games. This one's coming up next, of course, and then Ole Miss has Kentucky on Tuesday, but big opportunity to knock off the number 1 team in the country for Chris Beard's team here.
Yeah, and this might be the one of the closer Auburn spreads we've seen recently. I believe this one's going to be right around 5.5, 6.5. You'll see maybe Auburn as kind of a popular road parlay piece somewhere around -250. That could always get a little bit dangerous when the public is heavy on about a -200-ish favorite. Keep that in mind. When we look at the matchup, though, I'm looking right away at the way that Ole Miss forces turnovers, and I know that you're going to touch on it as well, probably, because that's probably the thing that Ole Miss does the best, no matter what category you're talking about. Currently 12th in the nation in forcing turnovers on the season, first in the SEC in conference play. And you combine that with a real rock-solid perimeter defense. And Blake, Ole Miss has been a tough customer to deal with.
Yeah, they've not been easy to deal with, and they're the kind of one of those teams we always talk about that just don't like playing against. You don't like playing against the type of style that they're going to kind of impose on you. And certainly, as we mentioned before, top 10 defensive team in the country. I think if they pull off the upset here, we're probably going to be talking about them on the defensive end, just being able to work some Chris Beard magic here and force the turnovers and just slow down what is, as we said, just been an absolutely incredible offensive team in Auburn. Now, you can point out some of the things, too, and say, well, yeah, Auburn only scored 53 points against Tennessee. Well, sure. I mean, what does Tennessee do well? They're going to play physical on defense. They're gonna play Tennessee's defensive style. Ole Miss plays the Chris Beard defensive style. You can also say, well, Auburn went on the road. They only won by 5 at Texas. They went on the road, only won by 3 at South Carolina. Although I mentioned, I think that was a little bit of an extreme circumstance after the Broom injury early in that game. And then they go on the road on Wednesday and played better in a 13-point win at LSU. But I mean, look, this is, as we said, for Ole Miss, I mean, this is the team that I think if you're trying to find the formula to beat a team like Auburn, Max, I think it starts with the defense. Because really, can Ole Miss do the same thing that Tennessee did last Saturday? I think that's, one of the things. I'm sure if you're Chris Beard, you're looking at that film saying, all right, how can we replicate some of the things Tennessee did defensively to try to just slow this team down, knowing that Broom is back and he's back and better than ever. This guy coming off what we thought would be who knew how long the injury was going to be, and what's he done since then, right? He comes back, plays against Tennessee. We didn't even think he was going to play, was the best player in that game, and then, no big deal, just comes back the next game in LSU 4 days later, 26 points, 16 rebounds, 3 blocks. So how does that matchup go, right? Malik Diaz in there. What does Brakefield do? Like, these are all fascinating things with this game, but I think it all starts with the Ole Miss defense here. They just have to find some of those similar things that Tennessee was able to do, and if they can do that, easier said than done, they're going to have a chance in this game.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Malik Dia and Brakefield, because they're going to have to be a factor offensively in this game if Ole Miss is going to win. They're going to have to, because Padula, as good as Padula has been, he's been incredible for him with his threes. Morrell's banged up. Morrell is playing like a shell of himself. I had the two screens going on last night when we were watching this, and the broadcast, man, it seemed like every other possession was talking about how Morrell does not look like himself out there. He's not hunting down his shot. He's not being aggressive offensively. He's not even looking to score. He's just out there doing everything else and making good basketball plays. Dre Davis played his first game. He was coming back from injury. Chris Beard talked about him in the post game, saying, I got a lot of respect for Dre Davis. He's gotten out through some tough injuries right now, playing banged up. So I'm looking right at Brakefield, looking right at Dia. They've got tough matchups, real tough matchups. You got to go score on Cardwell and Broome all night. But if there's one thing that Malik Dia can do, it's make tough shots. And Brakefield has been in the league forever now and knows how to have a game. So I'm looking right at Dia and Brakefield, Blake. They got to produce offensively.
Yeah, and I mean that we talk about on the other side too, like the guys like Chaney Johnson and Dylan Cardwell, and man, they continue to feel like just the unsung heroes of this Auburn team. Like all the focus is on Broome, and rightfully so in terms of what he's done. But man, you just keep looking at the numbers, and you break down kind of what Cardwell and Johnson have contributed to this team this year. And I'm with you. Like the Ole Miss bigs have to play big here if they're going to have a chance to win this game, because it is going to start. Like I said, I think what can they do offensively, but also like it's one of those things too. I think with Ole Miss where if you see Auburn come out, maybe get them in a little foul trouble. If you get Broome some looks in there early, plays at the rim, all of a sudden he gets a foul on one of those two guys. They got to sit for an extended period of time. It puts Ole Miss, I think, in a bit of a tough position there. Whereas you feel like with Auburn, you've seen guys get in foul trouble before. And we talked about Auburn, like the fouling numbers. Like we've noted that. That's certainly something that could come into play. But yeah, I think this is one that's interesting because, as always, when you're playing a team like Auburn, your margin for error is very slim because it's trying to kind of craft that perfect game plan. And sometimes if the game early on, right, like I said, if you get a guy in foul trouble, or even if it is a Morrell not being himself, right, like those are the kind of things. All right, now we've got to shuffle a little bit. We got to try to find something else that's going to work. Whereas it just seems like Auburn has just continually, every single time, found a way to adjust when they have to. And that's where people have brought it up. But just the experience of playing a couple of those games without Broome, the confidence that gave these other guys, and just their ability to keep expanding the roles that they're playing on this team. It's a fun setup here for this game, without question, Max.
And one more thing is when you're looking at like, okay, how does Ole Miss pull this thing off? How do they what do they have to do to pull this off? And when you look at kind of their in-conference numbers, Ole Miss is dead last in the SEC right now in conference play and offensive rebounding. They're only rebounding 21% of their misses. They're barely getting anything. So what are they going to have to do? They're going to have to hit their threes. Have to. Because if you're not hitting your threes, they're not making extra opportunities for themselves, but they don't turn it over. So you're going to get one shot. You get that one shot. Is that shot going to go in is the question, because you're not getting another opportunity on most occasions. So how has the Auburn perimeter defense been in conference play? Well, it's been pretty dang good. It's been pretty dang good. So do with that what you will.
All right, let's get to picks.
You get the feeling, and I was talking to Brandy, noted Auburn fan, one of our bigger Auburn fans on Twitter.
Brandy knows ball.
Yep. Felt like Auburn was going to drop one this week. The double away week. You're at LSU. You're at Ole Miss. Felt like one of them was going to get dropped. Well, LSU was fighting for a little while. They were fighting, but couldn't put together enough stops and enough consistent offense down the stretch. Georgia almost had him, 2-point game. South Carolina almost had him, 3-point game. Texas almost had him, 5-point game. Teams have been right there, knocking on the door, trying to get that home win when Auburn comes to town. Ole Miss probably going to have a 5-6 point spread here, Blake. Probably one of the better opportunities. They forced a lot of turnovers. They went to Alabama and won that game. Do they have what it takes to knock off Auburn here? I've got a picks lead that I've got to maintain.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you got to do what you got to do to extend that lead. Give me the Rebels.
What?
Give me the Rebels.
Oh,
Boom.
my.
Boom.
Wow.
Boom.
Wow.
Right when you least expect it. Right when you least expect it.
Wow.
You know, sometimes you got to shake things up. Rebels.
This is going to be played on radio stations across the Southeast for the next 10 years if Ole Miss wins this game. Wow.
Rebel.
Okay, I was not expecting that. I was totally expecting you to set everything up and then go with Auburn. That's my move. Yep. All right. Well, okay. Well, then maybe I need to consider some ideas here because I'm trying to stay with you on the picks. All right, who's Chris picking?
Chris is not as bold. He's not feeling as rebellious. So. Not as rebellious. He's going Auburn.
I didn't think so. Oh, my. Well, it's kind of thrown me for a loop here because, normally I like to just tag along with you because I don't want to get too far out in the picks and all that. I forgot to mention the Georgia game earlier, too. That was a 2-point game on the road as well, as we know, for the Tigers. I also think about this. Texas had a 13-point lead on Ole Miss 5 minutes to go in the first half on Wednesday night. Ole Miss had 19 points with 5 minutes to go in the first half on Wednesday night. And I think this will be a lower scoring game. I don't know that I see this as like 90 to 88 or anything because I do, as I said, if this is going to be a close game where Ole Miss can win, it will come down to their ability defensively to have a chance to win the game. But the thing that still does not get talked about enough is the fact that Auburn is really good defensively too. And we talk all about the offense with the Auburn Tigers. And look, offense is sexy. It's great to talk about. But man, games are won sometimes with just defensive possessions. And I think that Auburn has played a lot of good defensive possessions recently. Now, again, you can point out, sure, they gave up 74, whatever at LSU. Whatever. I get the thought that Auburn has to drop one eventually, and they probably will. But I just cannot – I'm not confident in predicting it. So, therefore, I'm going to pick Auburn in this game. So, Max has a chance to extend the lead in the picks contest if he can get the upset here with the Rebels. I don't think it's a bad call. Don't think it's a bad call at all. If you look at the trends, Auburn's played a lot of close road games. They managed to win all those. Can they keep it going here? We'll find out.
Last year,
Max.
Quick little nugget here. Yep. Last year, these teams played in Oxford. The halftime score, Ole Miss.
Oh, I remember that.
44. Auburn, 35.
Yeah, took it to them in the first half.
Rebels didn't have enough to close out that game. Do they have enough this year? We shall see.
Yeah. Well, we shall see what happens. All right, there you go. Our thoughts on Auburn, Ole Miss. As always, we'll have it covered here with reaction on Saturday night, late reaction on Saturday nights, probably based on the schedule. We may also do something before the primetime Kentucky game. We'll let you guys know. As always, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, turn on those notifications so you know when we go live on Saturdays, which is usually multiple times throughout the day. So check out everything else on the channel. All the other games on Saturday are previewed as well. We appreciate you guys watching, and we'll talk to you again soon at Southeastern 16.